Hello, Lions fans, and welcome to another episode of Bleav in Lions. I am Brandon Brown, joined as always by Glover Quinn out there in H-Town. Glover, it looks beautiful out there. I don't know, how often you make it back to Michigan, but we're getting some this crazy run of weather here in deep October. I don't know what to do with it, but it looks nice out there. How you feeling this week, heading into this weekend?
Man, I'm feeling great. What kind of weather is it? Like bad weather? Cold? Rainy?
Incredible weather, like 70s, almost
Yeah.
80 degrees out, sunny. Been like that for about a week, man. It's been nuts.
And what's crazy, it's beautiful out here, but it's been, it's generally hot. You don't really get a good fall because it's kind of go from summer to winter, I guess,
Mm.
or like our winter is like a fall in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's been beautiful this week. The sun's been out. It's been cool. Hasn't been as hot. It's 66 degrees right now.
Yeah,
So it's been great. It's a great time right now. Fall is in full effect, I guess, in Houston, and it looks like it's the same up in Detroit as well.
absolutely. Well, obviously, we don't do a weather podcast, but I'm talking like that because I feel like maybe it's the Lions just bringing us some good fortune. I don't know the role that they've been on. We talked about their 3-game stretch beating 3 good NFC teams pretty handily and kind of on a little bit of a roll right now. Obviously, they lose Aiden Hutchinson. That's a big blow, and that's a bummer. But I mean, the machine seems to be humming right along. And this week, they're getting ready to take on a Tennessee team that's just not very good. I mean, you call it what it is. Lions should be able to get another win. But I say all that to ask you, when you are rolling, even if something bad does happen, like the Aiden Hutchinson loss, when you're rolling as a team, how does that work? Like, is there something that you have to actively do to keep it going? Is there something that you have to tell everybody as a leader to make sure you don't slip? Is there something that you're really focusing on at practice, especially, like I said, with a subpar opponent coming up?
The thing I used to say, and this is something that I really believe in. I tell my kids this all the time is, everybody loves to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody gets tired of winning. People get tired of losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't get tired of winning. People get tired of doing what it takes to win.
Mm.
That's the thing. When you're playing well, you're winning. You can't just look at the end result. You have to look at how did we get here? If it's catching 100 balls a day gives you the confidence to go out and catch 10 in a game. Once you start having success, you can't stop catching your 100 a day and just feel like you're going to go out there and do it. There's a reason why you're playing well on Sunday. There's a reason why you're performing. Meeting room, weight room, sleep routine, cafeteria, body care, all those little things that you do on a day-to-day basis from an individual standpoint, from a team standpoint. All those things allow you to go out and play well on Sunday, and that's what allows you to win. That's what allows you to be rolling. That's what allows you to play with confidence, and you go out there and you feel like you can beat anybody. You can't stop doing those things when you're winning. And a lot of times when you start winning, people get comfortable. More obligations come up. People want to talk to you here. You got appearances there. You got different things that starts to come up that tends to want to get in the way of your routine. And you got to find a way to stay locked in and focused on the reason why you're having success, because the success that comes on Sundays, that's just a byproduct of all the work that you've done leading up to that point.
That's great stuff. And yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, that's how upsets happen. I mean, that's why upsets exist. Just like you said, you get a little comfortable, you get complacent, and a team will jump up and bite you. And it happens all the time in the NFL because even the quote unquote bad teams are still good. Those are the best players in the world, and that's I know exactly what Lions fans are potentially worried about for this weekend. But I don't know, man. There's something about this team. The way Dan Campbell gets the guys ready, the way Ben Johnson seems to plan week to week for individual opponents. Jared Goff is playing at an MVP level. I mean, everybody who's important, and they're all important, but the figureheads of the team seem to be as locked in as anybody. Do you see any kind of opportunity where a Tennessee Titans team that's not very good, they've shuffled through some quarterbacks, they just traded away DeAndre Hopkins, maybe their biggest name player. I know he's not D-Hop from 5 years ago, but he's still a good player. Is there anything or any way that Lions fans should be worried about this Tennessee team, and they're coming to Detroit as well? It's at home for the Lions.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's the NFL. It's Sunday, and anything can happen on Sunday. And so these are games where I look at to see the maturity, the level of the team that you have in Detroit. Games like this are games where you should absolutely come out there at your home. You should come out and establish dominance. You shouldn't come out trying to force the dominance. And what I mean is, you've been putting up 30 to 40 points the last few weeks by running the ball, playing good defense, play action, hitting some big passes down the field over the course of the game. You have to do the same thing this week. You can't come out and just assume, hey, we're going to try to run these trick plays early in the game, take deep shots, that yada, 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 because then it gets you out of rhythm offensively. You put yourself at risk of turning the ball over and giving them opportunities to make plays from a defensive standpoint, right? Offensively, I don't know if they can just methodically move the ball on your defense without you helping them out via penalties or, interception returns and things like that. So I think you got to come out and establish that we're the big dogs on the field from a defensive line standpoint, from an offensive line standpoint, from running the football. We're going to control the game. We're going to run it when we want to run it. And then when we want to throw it, we're going to throw it. We're going to pass block, and we're going to do those things. We can't come out there and try to be too cute, with all these different things that would allow them to gain some momentum if they don't go in your favor. I think there's plenty of time throughout the course of the game. We've seen it. They've been able to incorporate hook and ladders in multiple games, throughout the course of the game. We've seen shots to JMO throughout the course of the game. The game that they came out and it looked like they tried to be too cutesy or do too much was the Tampa game. That's the game that they lost. They came out, they didn't establish the run game. Jared Goff threw the ball probably 50 times, and we never established our identity, and we lost that game. So I don't think that they can come out like that against Tennessee. I don't ever want to disrespect any players in the NFL because, hey, at the end of the day, we all can play. Yep. You have to go out and make them believe that they can't play. And you do that by dominating up front, running the ball, getting 8-9 yards a pop, then hitting them over the top, stopping them on defense, going out, making another play, and then they'll start to look at each other like, man, these boys are really good, man. It's going to be a long day for us.
There you go. And the Lions are favored by 10.5, which is as big as a number usually gets in the NFL. I mean, they're expected to win this one and win it easy, but like you said, you got to do it. You got to do it. And that's at all levels. I mean, all levels, all sports. Can't take any opponent for granted. And I know I just don't see that with this team. Like, they're just locked in, man. The way Dan Campbell leads them, he's a fired up, feisty guy. I just don't see that. So I fully expect the Lions to cruise to victory over the Titans this weekend. You mentioned a couple guys there that I want to talk about. I think, we'll start with Jameson Williams. He's had some really big plays this year. He's made some strides. And now, unfortunately, this week the news comes out that he's possibly facing a 2-game suspension for a PED. There's been some rumors out there about what exactly that was. I'm not going to speculate. I won't even mention them here. But I just want to ask, you started once you talked about your story before. Once you started, you never looked back. You never gave up your starting position. You kind of became a veteran ahead of your time a little bit. When you've got a young guy on your team like Jameson Williams, who, first of all, he came in with an injury. That's not his fault, but he was behind the 8 ball a little bit because he was coming back from injury. Then he had the gambling thing where he had to miss some games. Now he's got a little whatever this is. Like, do you ever as a veteran just grab him and be like, what are you doing? Like, what, or is this just kind of how it goes with some, like, I hate to say that he's like cursed or something, but this dude like has so much potential and it feels like he just keeps tripping up over these little things along the way. Only in year 3. I just wonder how a veteran on the team would take that, or what Lions fans at home should think about JMO as these things keep popping up.
Well, yeah, it sucks that this keeps happening. Guy with so much potential, but you can clearly tell he's a young guy. I don't want to say immature, but he's just a young guy. He has to grow up definitely and understand that, this right here is important. It's important. And like you said, you can't do anything about the injury he had coming in. But that was a thing, right? That was a thing attached to your name, right? You're coming in, you had an injury, right? So then you come back year 2, and now you got the gambling suspension. And you come back now and you get this, and I don't know what it is. I haven't heard anything. I haven't saw anything. I haven't read anything. It's at a point in the season where I know you've been through probably multiple drug tests. So why wouldn't something pop up in training camp? Why wouldn't something pop up week 1, 2, 3? Is it something that you got caught up with during the season? You're riding high, you're feeling good, and I don't know. And I don't know what's still on the performance enhancing things. I know back then guys used to get popped for like Adderall. They would take Adderall or something like that.
That's the one thing that's been mentioned. I don't think it's been confirmed that that's what it was, and that's kind of an odd performance enhancer for football. Anyway, but it's beside the point. But that's the one name of a substance that's been thrown out there. It's not confirmed, but that's what some people speculate it might be.
Right, and I never understood how. I've never been, had to do Adderall or things like that. But maybe it makes people focus really well, and I don't know. And maybe that's why it's only 2 games, because it wasn't like he was maybe doing a steroid or some type of something to, really, really boost his performance. He probably just got caught taking Adderall. Probably had a long night and he got drug tested. So I don't know exactly what it is. So I'm not going to speculate either. But it just sucks that every year is something. And he's off to a great start this year. He definitely provides an element to the Lions offense that, opens up things for a lot of people, because you have to respect him. Even if he has games where he's not going for, the big plays, the multiple down the field passes, the defenses have to respect that. So there's a reason why he's not getting those deep shots, because they got 1, 2 guys that they're keeping to make sure he doesn't get those. Well, then that takes away guys from the underneath. So then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, those guys become more open because there's less guys underneath to defend. And then once they get to the point to where they are tired of just getting methodically beat and they try to gamble, then Jared Goff and Jameson Williams hits them over the top of the head for a 40, 50, 60, 70, even 80-yard play. And so he definitely provides a different dynamic to the offense. That's much needed. You're definitely going to need him, down the stretch, playoff runs, Super Bowl. Hopefully you can get to that point. You're definitely going to need him. So whatever this is, whatever it was, hopefully he can get it cleared up, cleaned out. I think from a locker room standpoint, even from an NFL standpoint, when you're doing enhancement drugs to increase your performance, basically cheating the game, it's not a great thing for the locker room. It's not a great thing just for other players in general around the league, because we're all, brothers in a sense. And, we're all out here working hard, and you're cheating the game, right? Adderall, I don't think is looked at as harshly in the locker room from other guys. So if that's what it was, I'm pretty sure he's had to answer to his teammates, as his coaches, so they know what happened, what it was, what it is. And, I think if it's something of that magnitude, I think he can, deal with the consequences of it, 2 games, and he be ready to go. And I think that'll put him back for the Texans game, right, Sunday night. If he missed Tennessee, and then he'll miss first
Green
weekend
at Green Bay. Yep.
Then he'll be back for the Sunday night game. So that's a big one. But as you continue to win, and once you get into November, and like all the games become big games at that point. So hopefully he can get this out of his system and get whatever it is cleared up so that he's back ready to roll and be ready for that home stretch.
And I don't fully understand how all of this works, and it is a bummer that he's dealing with it at all. But I Bleav there's going to be some form of an appeal process, because it is something that I maybe he just didn't even know, or whatever the case may be. So I think there's actually still a chance he might play this weekend, even though right now it's listed that he won't. I think there's an appeal process that they may go through, or maybe, like you said, maybe you just 2 games, take your lumps, man, get it over with, get it out the way, and see what happens moving forward. But either way, unfortunate that these things keep popping up for J-Mo.
Right, and that's what I would say. Like I said, I don't know if he feels like he did anything wrong and he can get out of it cleanly. Then yes, fight for your rights, fight for your name, right? But at the end of the day, if you got to choose 2 games, I mean, yeah, Green Bay is gonna be an absolute miss either way, right? But I would rather miss Tennessee. I feel like my team can still go out and perform and beat Tennessee and be able to get back for the second half, the second tough game with the Texans, as opposed to playing Tennessee, and then I'm out for Green Bay and Houston. Those are going to be two big games. So, I mean, I'm sure you got some people advising him, and they know more about the situation. So we'll just see how it play out.
Well, a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next. It is this next 5-game stretch. You kind of look at the season, however you want to break it up, whether it's, every 4 for 4 quarters or every third, whatever. But the Lions are 6 games in, sitting at 5-1. So I thought it'd be a good idea to look at the next 5, especially with, again, Tennessee. Everybody expects the Lions to win that one this weekend, but there's a couple tough ones mixed in there that we've already talked about. So their next 5 is at home this weekend against Tennessee, on the road against Green Bay, on the road at Houston, then home against Jacksonville, and then on the road against the tricky, kind of feisty Indianapolis team that, has some talent and can beat some teams sometimes that maybe you don't expect. So you've got 3 road games, 2 of them very difficult. One of them feels a little bit tricky at the end of this 5-game stretch at Indy, and then 2 that should frankly be wins, at home against Tennessee and at home against Jacksonville. So if you're the Lions and you're 5-1 and you've got this 5-game stretch coming up, I mean, yes, you go in thinking we're going to do our best, we're going to win them all, but what's a realistic expectation for the next 5, and where would you be comfortable with the Lions after these next 5 games? Again, if J-Mo misses a couple, they're still trying to figure out the Aiden thing. Are they going to make a trade? Are they not? Like, what feels good to you about these next 5 games?
Well, I mean, I think you just got to go out and win the games that you're absolutely supposed to win. So definitely the Tennessee game, definitely the Jacksonville game.
Yeah.
That puts you at 7 wins on the season. The other 3, say you drop all 3 of them, you're still 7-4 football team, right? You got Green Bay on the road, you got Houston on the road, and then you got Indy on the road. So you got to try to find, if you're going to be a good football team, you want to win. You definitely got to win those 2 that you should win. The other 3, you're probably going to be favored in most of them because you're a good football team. But they're good football teams as well. You're going on the road. You got to find a way to get 2 out of the 3. You can't go 0 for 3 in those big games. You want to try to get 2 out of the 3 at least. If you happen to drop 1, you got to beat Green Bay.
I was going to say, hopefully Green Bay.
Don't beat Green Bay. Indy, Houston, those are AFC teams. Those losses, they hurt, but they don't hurt as bad as losing to Green Bay. So you got to focus on getting Green Bay, and your 2 ones that you're supposed to win. That gives you 3-2 on a tough 5-game stretch. Push you at 8-3.
8-3. Yep.
I think that if you come out of this stretch at that point, I think you'll feel real good about where you are, and that gives J-Mo time to get done what he got to get done. That gives them time to get through the trade deadline if they made a move or something like that. And 8-3 going into the last 6 games or so, you should be in a good spot.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a very realistic and objective way to look at it. Those two should be again. It's always the NFL. You always got to play, but you call them layups, man. You got to beat Tennessee. You got to beat Jacksonville at home. They're not winning a lot of football games. You got to get dubs right there. I think if you go 3-2 over this stretch, you'd be pretty happy with that. But here's the thing that's so cool about where the Lions are at right now. 4-1's realistic. 5-0 is realistic through the stretch. Like they can beat all of these teams, but you're right. It's tough on the road. Green Bay is a divisional opponent. You're going to see them again. It's kind of nice that they get them in Lambeau here coming up in a week instead of late November or early December. They go to Lambeau this next weekend and at Houston. I mean, CJ Stroud and that crew, this being right there, and they can drop a 50 on you like nothing. So those are some really tough games, but I think you're right. I think if you can come out of them at 3-2, no worse than that for sure, and 3-2 or better, I think you'd have to be happy with that sitting just past the halfway point of the season. So that's where the Lions are at, for their next 5 games. Tennessee this weekend, I don't even think I need to ask Glover, but I'm picking them to win. I know he's probably picking them to win, and they're supposed to by almost 2 touchdowns. The last thing I want to focus on, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I'm not trying to make you be the bad guy, but I'm going to ask you to for just a minute. Jared Goff, over the last 3 games, Seattle, Dallas, Minnesota, 3 big wins for the Lions. Kind of got them on this little bit of a hot streak. There was a bye mixed in there. Jared Goff over those last 3 games is 58 of 68 for 887 yards and 7 touchdowns. Oh, and by the way, he caught a touchdown pass in one of those games, and he has not thrown a pick. I don't know how this happens, but it happens every year. I don't know if it's because Jared Goff is not a very excitable guy. He's a little bit boring. He's not the flashiest dude. He's not a great athlete, but he just kind of falls through the cracks. Like when these talking heads all over the country talk about elite quarterbacks, he is never brought up. I want you to tell me, I want you to be one of those people who seems to be uninformed and tell me why Jared Goff can't be the MVP. Why can't Jared Goff be the MVP?
Why can't he? I mean, I think he can, but I do think, he gets lumped into being a part of a great team and just being a great game manager.
There's that term that always gets put on him.
Right. Because I don't think anyone feels like, if the run game isn't going, if this is that Jared Goff is just going to go out and just tear it up and lead to a victory. Right.
Okay.
But he's very good in controlling the game, managing expectation. He's very good at that. And so I think he gets lumped into that because the run game is so great, right? The offensive line is so great. So, when he has pressure on him and he doesn't seem to blink an eye because he got a great offensive line, right? He can hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs, to David Montgomery, and they take the pressure off of him. And then, when you look at a lot of his passes, you say, I mean, how many times is he really throwing into tight windows? Most of the times, these guys are running wide open. And that's a credit to the offense, the credit to Ben Johnson, and all the different things they got going on. So that's what's going to be a reason as to why Jared Goff won't get MVP. And like you said, he's not a loud type of guy. He just kind of goes about his business. You know what I'm saying? You look at
he's not going to do any campaigning for himself. He's just going to do his job. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And you look at a guy like, Lamar Jackson, they got weapons, right? They got defensive weapons. They got offensive weapons. They got Derrick Henry, who was probably an MVP candidate at some point. They got, Zay Flowers. But they're going to give Lamar Jackson most of the credit in that, right? You look at Patrick Mahomes, he's not even playing well right now. But the thing, and I was telling my son the other day, the stat that matters is winning. He's finding ways to win, and that's the thing about Pat Mahomes. He's doing it with, I don't want to say nobody, but I remember when there was a stretch where you could put any receivers out there with Tom Brady, and he was going to find a way to win.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, those guys were going to find ways to win. And I think that's what you're seeing with Patrick Mahomes. They've invested a lot in him. And he has different receivers every year. You know,
almost every week this year. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just finds a way to win games.
Yeah.
So those are the things. I think for Jared, obviously, he's just going to have to continue putting up big numbers. He's going to have to continue performing on national stages when they have, big time games, coming up. Like I said, this Houston game coming up. When they play Green Bay, he's going to have to play well on the road in Green Bay. He's going to have to play well on Sunday Night Football at Houston. He's going to have to play well Thanksgiving Day. He's going to have to play well in all those games. And then as he get into the playoffs, he's going to have to continue playing well. And I think he'll garner some interest if he can continue to play at this level. But I think he's also going to probably be, docked because of all the offensive weapons that he has around him.
Fair enough. Look, Glover did not know I was going to make him be the devil's advocate today. He didn't know I was going to do that. But look, man, 18 for 18 against Seattle, 22 of 25 for him. There's quarterbacks that aren't doing that against air. Those numbers are incredible. I think I saw a stat the other day. It was either over this 3 or 4 game stretch that the Lions have played. They have less incompletions than they do touchdowns. Right. That's insane. That's a crazy stat. Jared Goff is playing very, very efficiently. He's very accurate. I mean, your points you're made, they're valid, but you got to give 16 a ton of credit. I think he's in the discussion for the MVP right now. Again, we're 6-7 games into the season. There's a lot of football to be played, but he's playing out of his mind. He's a big reason why they're on this run that they're on, and should get another win this weekend in Tennessee. Do you have a score prediction? Let's do that real quick before we get out of here. Tennessee coming to Detroit this weekend. Lions are big-time favorites. What do you see happening?
I can see this one going in the Lions' favor. Like I said, obviously, I think they're going to get the win. And hopefully they come out and show that they are a good, mature football team. And I can see them winning this one 31-10, something like that, 31-14. It's the NFL. So anything fluky can happen where Tennessee can get a score here or there. And I think the Lions can get up a little early and then kind of take the foot off the gas and run the ball. And, that's not like they're not going to score running the ball. But I think 31-14, 31-10, something like that.
That sounds pretty good. I had it a little higher than that. I had about 38-13. These Lions are – they put 40 on Seattle. They put 40 on Dallas. They put 40 on Dallas when they didn't need 40. Right. The Seattle game was a little bit closer. Obviously, the Vikings game was very close. But this Lions team on offense, man, really humming along. We'll see if J-Mo's a part of it or not. But Jared Goff, like we just talked about, playing at an MVP level. There you have it. Lions look to get to 6-1 this weekend as they host the Titans. He's Glover Quinn. I'm Brandon Brown. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.